Everybody, welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the Thursday NBA slate. We have 6 games starting at 7 o'clock, or 7:30. It's going to be a fun one. Let's get into it. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Yesterday, we hit on FanDuel, missed out on DraftKings by a little bit, so at least we got something back. Hopefully, we can keep it going tonight on this one and get both sides in the money once again. It's been a pretty good last couple of weeks of NBA. I can't really complain. So let's get started. I'll post my prize pick stuff on Twitter. Yesterday I went 4 out of 5. Should have been a clean sweep, but Chetty somehow only played like 19 or 20 minutes with them being so shorthanded. I definitely did not see that coming. But hopefully we can get them all to go tonight. Looking at the point guard play today, big piece of news: Steph Curry is questionable if he happens to sit, which against Cleveland, with them still being a little bit limited with bodies, even if Allen returns. Could see him sit if he's not 100%. You'd see a big bump for Wiggins, especially for Jordan Poole. Draymond will get a little bit of a bump. Basically, all the starters would, and then you'd be looking at some of the viable bench options. Maybe Damian Lee would get some more run, maybe Gary Payton. But last time, Steve Kerr played 13 guys in the first half, so he is probably just going to spread it out if there's no Curry on the bench, but the starters would benefit. Whoever jumps in is starting in his spot. Ja Morant is 10K against the Clippers. He's been fine. I just think it's a little bit too high of a price tag for me to kind of feel really confident about it. The Clippers are going to be without Nick Batum, who's doubtful. So I feel like I would like to target the Clippers a little bit more. We do have some good price tags on the Grizzlies, like Dylan Brooks. It's only 6,000. We will get to him, but I really don't need to. Well, I don't think I will pay 10K for Ja Morant. DeJounte Murray came through big time last time out with 60.5. Back-to-back 60 burgers for him. Back-to-back almost triple doubles. Missed one by 1 assist against the Clippers. Good spot against the Timberwolves. They are on a back-to-back, so maybe they have some tired legs. That game should typically be a little bit higher scoring against the Timberwolves. Their defense is not very good. Donovan Mitchell is 89. Typically, I don't like to pay like 9K for Mitchell, but it's a good spot against Toronto. Even though Toronto's been good defensively in terms of just limiting points, they tend to give up a lot of fantasy points because I believe they're at the top of the NBA in allowing opponents to block shots. So that will probably benefit like Rudy Gobert instead of Donovan Mitchell. But they do give up a lot of fantasy points in like some of the blocks and steals department. So Mitchell is viable, but I probably won't get to him. Lowry rested last game. He is 76, but Butler is back, and then possibly Bam will be back today as well. If Bam, Butler, Lowry, if they're all in, I really don't have interest in trying to get to Kyle Lowry. Rubio, Garland had decent games yesterday. Their price tags are kind of jumped. Everybody on Cleveland's price has jumped, and they might get Markkanen back. They also could get Jared Allen back, who was out the last couple with a sickness. I really don't think I want to pay almost 7K for Rubio, 7K for Garland. I like Bledsoe at 58. The Clippers are going to be shorthanded tonight. No Nick Batum, still no Morris, and possibly no Terrence Mann, who's questionable. So you'll get a good price tag on Bledsoe, possibly getting him over 35 minutes today with them not having a ton of bodies. Derek White finally had a somewhat decent game. He shot the ball well, 8 of 14. Still didn't really come through with fantasy because there's just so many guys that are picking up rebounds and picking up assists, mostly going to DeJounte Murray. He's viable at that cheap price tag just because he's a pretty solid cash play. And then I would probably look at like Beverly's in play at 42 just because he plays a lot of minutes now, 34 in close games, and he fills up all areas of the stat sheet: rebounds, assists, points. Aaron Holiday looks good just because Dinwiddie is not going to play today, so he'd probably jump into his spot. Beal is going to play, so that a little bit different story without Dinwiddie compared to without Beal. Beal takes a little bit more usage, but I still like Holiday a little bit. And Bones Highland might get overlooked today because people see that he only played 11 minutes last game, but he was in foul trouble, and then he hurt his ankle, so he went to the locker room, and then he missed like a bunch of he missed at least 1 or 2 rotations in that span. But typically, you'd probably see at least like high teens, low 20s in minutes just without Will Barton right now, who's doubtful once again for this contest. Right now, I feel good about going to Kyle Lowry. Going to Eric Bledsoe at that price tag, not going to Kyle Lowry. At shooting guard, Paul George. Really like Paul George, but he's now 11K. His price tag has jumped up a lot. He's still viable. He plays big minutes in close games, but definitely a lot different of a story when we were getting him at like 10,000, 10.2, 10.4, 10.5. 11K, you need 66 for 6X to pay off that salary. I'd take a $1,600 savings and go down to Bradley Beal, who is playing without Dinwiddie, so more usage for him. He's going to play 35 to 37 minutes. The matchup is against Miami. It's a tough one, but I'm getting two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference right now squaring off. The Wizards have been rolling, sit on top of the Eastern Conference. Even without Dinwiddie, I don't really expect this game to be a blowout. Beal should hopefully be able to keep the Wizards in it. He's been still struggling from three from like a lot of the other superstars this year, but he gets you assists. He's going to have the ball in his hands even more today without Dinwiddie. So possibly to flirt with a double-double with assists. He gets you a couple rebounds, but really he can just get red hot from the field. And he's at a very cheap price tag compared to the other superstars. So I like Bradley Beal. Jimmy Butler's in play as well at 95. OG is questionable. If he's out, then you're looking at Siakam gets a bump. Scotty Barnes get a bump. Maybe Gary Trent. It's a tough spot, but I probably look to at least one of some of these Toronto guys just because Nick Nurse plays his starters a ton. And if OG is out, whoever jumps into his spot would be viable, and then the other starters would just get more usage. Kyle Kuzma is 66. Without Dinwiddie, you could play him, but you have Wiggins if there's no Curry would be a better option. Chetty somehow only played 19 minutes. I don't know why. He was playing well too, but he's 61 now, so you don't even have to consider it. Markkanen is 52. If he plays, might be limited again. I mean, he might be limited in his return like they were with yesterday with Kevin Love. And then at the bottom, you have Luke Kennard, who could start in place of Nick Batum, or you could go Terrence Mann if he starts in place of Nick Batum, if he's active. But right now I'm going with Dillon Brooks. He's only 6,000. He's it's his fourth game back from injury. He played 31 in the second, and then the game against Houston was a 34-point blowout. So he only played 23 minutes. Nothing to be surprised about there. But we know Dillon Brooks can light it up from three, and he loves to shoot. So he shoots a lot. He's might contend with John Morant from the most shots on the team. He will soon get up to full minutes, like 35. But even if he gets like 32, 33 today against the Clippers, this game is probably one of my, at least the Clippers are looking at a good team to target just with the injuries. And I want to get to at least one guy to bring it back, and I think Dillon Brooks is probably my favorite bet at 6,000. Price tag has dipped on him. He went from 71 to 69 to 65 down to 6K. Pretty soon that price tag is going to be in like 65 to 7K range, I think, for the rest of the year. So that's basically the small forward options. Moving on to power forward. The top end, you have like Tobias against Denver. He's 88, so he's expensive. I think you can go down to Siakam at 79. I like him, assuming that there's no OG today. And then Draymond, if there's no Curry, would be a great option. Keep even going down further for the value plays, and maybe you can look to like Doug McDermott, Jeff Green, but basically that's if you're starving for value. For me, I will go with Siakam. I don't know if OG will play or not. If he does, we can make some pivots. But the $7,900 price tag for a guy like Pascal, who got up to 39 minutes, so he's no longer on any sort of restriction. It's a little bit of a too cheap of a price tag, even though the matchup is tough. But if you're getting close to 40 minutes from Siakam in close games, he should be at least in like the $83 to $8,500 range. Similarly priced to Van Fleet. Gets a lot of usage. He's active out there. Gets you rebounds. Gets you some assists as well. But overall, he's just going to be aggressive. He can get you some steals. And he will take a lot of shots. So on this 6-game slate, going with a couple of underpriced stars in like Beal, Siakam seems like a pretty good route. You could pay $12K for Jokic against Philly. You should be able to eat against Drummond. No problem if you wanted to pay up there. If you wanted to go cheaper at center here, I kind of like Zubats at 51, mainly because they don't have that deep of a bench. His backup is Hartenstein, so it might not make too much of a difference for Zubats' minutes, but there's really no chance they will go super small in this one, just because they don't have Nick Batum, who would be a guy that they could go small with that center. But Zubats just missed a double-double last game by a bucket. He's going to be matched up against like Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson in this one. Then they played Tillman off the bench. So it does give you like close to 40-point upside And if he does get 31 minutes, I do think he'll be able to pay off a $5,100 price tag very easily. Other plays at center would be like Eubanks as a value play, maybe Gafford as a value play. If I don't really want to play any center against Gobert, but if there's no OG and then they go big, which they probably will, they'll probably start Birch maybe. He's only 3K. So Birch starts at center at the min-priced. He'd definitely be a viable option. You definitely could use him at your center or utility spot. Maybe save $2,100 and then upgrade. So we'll see when we get the starting lineup from. It's a late night game, but we could always make some late swaps. You might want to leave your utility open if you wanted to take a shot on min-price Khem Birch. And then last but not least, we do have another pretty cheap superstar. You could play this guy at shooting guard or at the guard spot or the forward spot. Whatever works for you. Typically, guard has some better options, so I will plug him in at the forward spot, and that is Anthony Edwards. He's sub $8,000 for one of the few times this year. He's only $7,700. He plays huge minutes in any sort of close game. He got 39 and 40 in the last couple. So we're just loading up on guys that play big-time minutes, give you big-time upsides. The matchup is solid against the Spurs. They really can't stop anybody defensively. They were giving up 100 and almost 110 points per game. Play at a quick pace. DeJounte Murray likes to push it up and down the floor. But, possibly we're going to get 40 minutes out of Edwards, 40 minutes out of Siakam, like 35 to 38 minutes out of Beal. So maybe a lot of minutes out of Bledsoe with them being limited. So feel pretty good about these 6. At least with 4K, you can plug in a couple of value plays. I'm sure we'll get some more news on the slate as I have some other questionable pieces, a bunch of questionable pieces. But as an early kind of build, I kind of like rolling with this, going with a little bit of a stars and scrubs approach, but you're not breaking the bank for the stars. You're still able to fit in multiple stars with Beal, Siakam, Edwards. So that's it for DraftKings. Let's talk about FanDuel. All right, for FanDuel here, point guard plays. Curry's 11-1. He's questionable. Keep an eye on that. If he plays, he's going to be a great option against Cleveland. If you're looking for cheaper options here, you can go down to DeJounte Murray or John Morant. He looks a little bit better on FanDuel just because you have the extra salary to work with. Going further down, Ricky Rubio is 68. He's viable, but I'd probably go to Garland now. He's $800 cheaper. Plays similar, if not a couple extra minutes here. I like Bledsoe at $5,700 as well. Derek White makes sense, $5,300. And then Bones Highland is 45. He looks better on DraftKings, but still maybe worth a shot in tournaments. But I will probably stick with Garland. It's only 6K against Warriors at home. Shooting guard, Paul George looks a lot better than he does on DraftKings, 10-1. I like Paul George more than Murray or more than Butler. But 87 for Bradley Beal is probably the spot I would start with. Beal underpriced on both sides without Dinwiddie. More usage for him, more shots. And the matchup should be a close game. Even though it's a tough one against Miami, not too worried about a guy like Bradley Beal who can score against anybody. Dylan Brooks, 59. Looks good again. I'll probably get to him at small forward. And then I look to Bledsoe. Plug him in at point guard or shooting guard. He's at a good price tag. Then you just have guys that I'm not interested in at all, like Devin Vassell, Shake Milton, KCP at 52, Furkan at 5K. Just not that interesting. Luke Kennard looks good on both sides. Chance he could start in place of Batum if he's doubtful, or they could start Mann if he plays. So one of those two will probably start. Small forward, good spot to plug in Paul George. Anthony Edwards looks good on both sides. 82 is underpriced for FanDuel as well. Tobias, 75. He's still underpriced without Embiid, so he's looks very appealing. Maybe we can play him at power forward, depending on the options that we have. But Chetty is 6K now, no interest there. I'd take a shot on Dylan Brooks. I like Dylan Brooks. Won me a lot of money last year when we were playing him a bunch, and especially at the end of last year when he was just super aggressive, and especially in the playoffs. But Brooks, 59. Can't really beat that sort of price tag on FanDuel compared to a guy in that range with similar upside. Power forward, Siakam looks good at 81. Probably you can get up to Bam instead at 83 if he plays. But Tobias would be the starting point at 75. Against Denver, another tough spot for the Sixers. Going into Denver, they just went into Utah and got blown out. They need Embiid back. They lost 5 in a row now. Things are kind of spiraling. Or at least trade Ben Simmons so they can get some other bodies in there that will actually help. Maybe you can look at Thad Young, but he's approaching 6K. You're not getting a great value there anymore. Aaron Gordon, 51. Has a good game every once or twice a week. So maybe tonight's the night, but don't really have any confidence or feel for that. And then Burgess, 41. Probably look to him on DraftKings if he starts instead. And then at center, Jokic, 11-6. If you're looking to pay up at center, he would be the route I'd go with. Towns has a good matchup against Drew Eubanks and Thaddeus Young. So he should be able to dominate if they give him the ball and it's not just like Russell and Edwards chucking up a lot of the shots. And then for the value picks here, I don't mind going to Zubats at 55. I think he's going to have a good game against Memphis. So probably have him out there for all the minutes that Adams is there, and then they could even play him against if they want to go with Tillman at the backup center. That's basically it. You only have a couple options on FanDuel for center plays. For now, I'll plug in Zubats. I think I'll be able to get up to some more spend ups at the other spots. And Zubats looks appealing on FanDuel. Can get you some blocks as well, which worth one extra point. So that's it for the quick look at this 6-game Thursday slate. It's looking like a pretty fun one. Hopefully we get all the news that we need before 7:30. Thank you for watching. Best of luck tonight, and I'll see you all next time.